You've just been born in South Sudan, 2011, the newest country on earth. The ink on the independence certificate is still wet. Your grandmother is crying, not from sadness, from a joy so old and heavy it has no other way out. 60 years of war, two civil wars, a referendum that the whole world said would never happen. And yet, here you are, born free. Congratulations. Try not to ruin it. The world already knows what it thinks about you. They've seen the headlines: famine, conflict, displacement, crisis. The journalists fly in, film the worst corner of the worst day, and fly back out to write their Pulitzer entries. What they don't film is your uncle dancing at 2 a.m. because the rains finally came. What they don't film is your grandmother keeping 3 generations alive on nothing but ingenuity and fermented flatbread. What they don't film is a country of over 60 tribes, 60 who somehow still share food with strangers. But sure, tell me again how you know South Sudan. Let's start with the land, because whoever decided to put South Sudan here was showing off. The Sudd, the world's largest freshwater wetland, 30,000 square kilometers of papyrus, mist, and silence so thick it has weight. Your boots sink into living green mats. Dragonflies the size of your thumb flicker past your knees. Somewhere close, a hippo grunts like a disappointed uncle. The air smells like rain that hasn't fallen yet. There are no boardwalks, no ticket counters, no overpriced gift shops. Just you, the birds, and about 450 species of them, including the shoebill stork, a creature so ancient and so absurd looking, it appears God was clearly freestyling that day. The Serengeti gets the documentaries. The Sudd hosts one of the second largest animal migrations on the planet. 1.2 million white-eared cob, tiang antelope, and gazelle moving like a living river across Boma National Park. The whole world is watching wildebeest cross the Mara River. Nobody noticed South Sudan was doing it bigger, quieter, and without the tour buses. Now let's talk about the Dinka, the largest ethnic group in the country, tall, impossibly architecturally tall, the kind of tall that makes you wonder if gravity works differently for them. And their wealth is cattle, not as livestock, as meaning. A man's herd is his biography, his honor, his marriage, his prayer. When a Dinka boy stops milking cows, he becomes a man. When a family negotiates a bride price, cattle are exchanged with songs, blessings, and enough ceremony to make your cousin's 3-day wedding look like a lunch break. And the cattle themselves, long-horned, shish-covered, walking slowly through sunrise like they know they're sacred. They are. The Mundari people paint their faces with natural pigments before celebrations. In the evenings, fires glow across the cattle camp and the singing starts, not for tourists, for themselves, the oldest entertainment on earth. No Wi-Fi required, no signal anyway. Then there's the food, kisra, fermented flatbread, thin as paper, made from sorghum. You tear it, fold it, use it to scoop up whatever is in the pot. Goat stew, full, greens cooked low and slow with whatever the market had. Nobody eats alone. That's not a poetic statement, it's a social rule. You arrive at mealtime, you eat. You don't arrive at mealtime, someone will come find you and fix that immediately. Hospitality here isn't a virtue, it's an obligation. The kind that makes you feel guilty for every meal you ate standing over your kitchen sink in a foreign city. The music, bull drums that you feel before you hear them. String instruments that sound like rivers. Dinka poetry, yes, poetry, passed down through generations, not in books, but in voices, in cattle camps, in the mouths of people who memorized entire histories because writing them down seemed unnecessarily complicated. That poetry now lives on local radio. Spoken word artists performing 1,000-year-old traditions into microphones. Your ancestors invented the playlist. They just called it memory. By now, you're probably thinking, okay, but what about the hard parts? And yes, the hard parts are real. You already know them. Everyone does. The conflict, the hunger years, the displacement, the fact that your country is 13 years old and has already survived more than most nations face in a century. But here's what the headlines always miss. The people who stayed, not because they had no choice, because this is home. The women who rebuilt markets after the fighting stopped, who traded, who fed neighborhoods, who kept the economy breathing when the government forgot to. The men who came back from diaspora, from Australia, from America, from Canada, carrying degrees and ideas and a stubbornness about home that makes no logical sense and makes complete human sense. The children who grew up in refugee camps and came back to build schools, not bitter, not broken, furious in the productive way. South Sudan is 13 years old. Let that sit for a moment. Your country's 13. It's still figuring out its voice, still tripping over its own feet, still deciding what kind of adult it wants to be when it grows up. You know what else was chaos at 13? You, everyone. The difference is that nobody filmed your worst year and made it your entire identity. By your 20s, you've learned something the world hasn't figured out yet. Resilience isn't about not getting knocked down. It's about getting up and immediately asking, who's cooking, because you're hungry and life is short. You've watched your grandmother survive 2 civil wars, raise 7 children, and still argue with the market vendor about groundnut prices with the energy of someone who has never once considered the concept of giving up. She is not a symbol. She is not an inspiration poster. She is a person who simply decided very early that she was not going to die and then just continued making that decision every morning. That's South Sudan, not a tragedy enduring, a people continuing. The world calls you the youngest country. You call it a head start on becoming something nobody's seen before. 60 tribes, 60 ways of singing, 60 ways of cooking the same goat. One country, messy? Absolutely. Complicated? Obviously. Finished? Not even close. So why doesn't it suck to live in South Sudan? Because the land will humble you. Because the food will remind you what sharing feels like. Because the music will reach into your chest without asking permission. Because the people are running a masterclass in surviving the unsurvivable and still showing up with something to celebrate. Because it is the youngest country on earth, which means the story isn't written yet, which means you still get to write it. Historians will call you resilient. Journalists will call you a crisis. Tourists will call you undiscovered. But you know the truth. You're not a headline. You're not a hashtag. You're not a before photo waiting for an after. You are 60 cultures in one border. You are the Sudd at sunrise. You are the cattle camp at night. You are the grandmother who survived everything and still haggled over groundnuts this morning. You are the newest country on earth, and you're just getting started.